So I'll start with how this is going to work is I'm going to start with a round of intros to the panelists. We have got some incredible people joining us today. I'm so thrilled to have people who are not in just the pre-sales echo chamber. Something I've been focusing on is trying to get insight and experience, real world experience for those outside of pre-sales and how we can do a better job working with those individuals. So today's goal really is to bring in these amazing product marketers and say, how does this work for you? Define your job. What does good look like? So I'm super thrilled to have everyone here, but I'll pass it over to you, Jeannie, and that's pronounced Jeannie for all those who are interested. Go ahead and do your announcement or your introduction, and then over to Jeremy, over to Tom.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Jeannie Ford. I currently am on the product marketing team over at Zora, and I've worked in product marketing for the last, I'd say, 10 plus or so years now, always at B2B software companies that have either been enterprise or scaling up to enterprise or pretending to be enterprise. And so definitely kind of when that sales process gets a little more convoluted. When I'm not working, I have 3 little ones at home with a fresh 4-month-old as well. So they're the ones that are managing me at home. So yeah, I will pass it over to, I don't know, who's next, Chris?
Think that's me, Jeannie. So yeah, my name is Jeremy Goldstein. I'm a senior product marketing manager at SentinelOne. I have about 8 years of experience in cybersecurity marketing, worked at a couple of different companies, joined SentinelOne right before our IPO a few years ago. So I've been part of scaling the product marketing function over the last 4 years. As I mentioned in chat, I live in Boston, so you can catch me at a Sox game at Fenway or in deadlock traffic, but either way, really happy to be here with my pre-sales brothers and sisters.
And I'm Tom Josephson. I am the SC Echo Chamber. I oversee the SC team at TCP Software, and I've been here for about 2 years. Before that, I was at Bullhorn, where we sold ATS and CRM. TCP, we sell time and attendance and scheduling software. And I was a SC for a number of years before that. Before that, I was a teacher. So that was my first career as a teacher, and excited to be here. I love all things solutions consulting or sales engineering or solutions engineering, depending on where you are. And so I always love the opportunity to speak. So thank you all for having me, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And Akash, last but not least, a little about yourself.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, excited to be partnering with PreSales Collective here. As some of you know, Storylane, I'm one of the co-founders of Storylane, and Storylane enables pre-sales and product marketing teams do demo automation. So looking forward to the conversation. In the past, I've done a lot of pre-sales, and that's where the motivations of starting out Storylane came. How to like just have buyers really experience the your platforms, your software platforms easily, and enable quick sales. And that's what we are going to be talking about, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you guys are sending somebody to Paris for winning a demo contest. I'm super jealous. I was a judge, and I actually I highly recommend if anybody gets to be on a panel or something. I learned so much from watching all the different types of demos. But quick introduction, I'm Chris Mabry. I am the general manager at PreSales Collective. It is, yes, my full-time job. And I know many of you in the community. If you don't know me yet, please connect. We put on a crazy amount of content here. So the first question, I just want to open this up a little bit. It's a bit of a hot take, but like, I think maybe some people are wondering in the market, does pre-sales and product marketing work together at all? Like, should there be any intersection between these two functions? And then we'll go into sort of defining what great product marketing looks like and how to make this a superpower. So the first question is to those, especially to those who are like, I don't think there's any correlation between the two. I'm going to pass it over to you, Jeremy, and get your take on why, if we should or if we should not even be in the same room.
Well, I'd hope we'd be in the same room, and I think most of the other product marketing folks on this panel will say the same. I think the relationship between product marketing and pre-sales really falls outside of that whole sales and marketing bumping up against each other all the time. I think more than that, it's really a symbiotic relationship. So product marketers, our jobs is to make pre-sales lives easier through effective content and messaging. Likewise, pre-sales engineers return all of that technical knowledge and customer sentiment and all the conversations they're having back to us so that we can create more effective content. At SentinelOne, I really treat my pre-sales engineers as a proxy for our more technical users. And by tapping into that pre-sales feedback loop, it helps us really drive that across the organization. Product marketing, and we'll get into what is product marketing for those who are uninitiated a little bit later. But it's really about partnering across a bunch of different functions in the organization and iterating and constant improvement. So the more feedback that we can get from our field-facing teams, from our customer support, from our product management, makes our jobs easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump into there. I agree with everything that you said, Jeremy. Absolutely. I think product marketing and pre-sale should always be in the same room. I think product marketing is really the function sits as a hub between product, between marketing, between the sales team, and then the market itself. And I see pre-sales as a critical part of the sales piece of that arm, where you guys kind of provide us insight and access to kind of how to push deals further down the funnel, and we partner on that piece.
And as tempted as I am to say, no, we shouldn't be in the room, just for a hot take, I feel quite the same way as they do. And what I say, and I think there's somebody who dropped this in the chat, Laura, where it's the best tool and loudest source for PM teams. I love that. And I tell this to SCs. And what I tell SCs also is this gives us more influence. Not only it gives us more influence because we get to shape how we're putting the product out into the world, but we also have it. If we work with product marketing teams, and where I'm at now, we're very good at that. We're very, very good at that. Better than where I've been in the past. When I was places I've been in the past, we were occasionally a new product marketing person would come in with a lot of energy, and we'd kind of brush them off, which I don't recommend. But here I found that at TCP, at least, I found that we were working very closely. And a lot of the messaging we had been developing in a silo among either individuals, or we were a little bit better of it because we're doing it at least as a team. And then to have that validated by product marketing, feels great, but also if we did something wrong, they would help us, and it was actually a discussion, and that really, really helped us tighten our message, made us crisper, and then that also helps us enable the sales team where, hey, I know we think this is the value here, but here's where it actually is, and we're hearing the same things, and we're out in front of the customers, so we can marry these two things together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Akash, before I move on, any insight there? You work with a ton of product marketers.
Yeah, but we get placed on both sides, and that's the exciting part about what we do all the time, right? So what we observe is, like, when it comes to go-to-market functions, meaning product marketing from the marketing side and pre-sales representing customers and sales, right? You folks actually do a lot of it where customer perspectives are central, and both product marketing and pre-sales carries that information. So the moment like these two orgs start working together in tandem really well, the company it really accelerates the whole engagement with customers, and the stories that you tell your customers become so much more better.
Nice. It's like we're all seeing the same. So one thing I say is we all have to say the same words, like from lead to post-sales support. You have to say literally the same words. Like literally, if you call a feature one thing different, it's going to track differently.
Yep. If
we all say the exact same thing, we're all swimming in the right direction. We're all rowing in the right direction. If we want to use a Olympics boat version, because I'm into that right now, that's that's like one of the superpowers we have together. Let's get into just definitions. I'd like to define terms. There may be some people here who don't know what product marketing is. Just very quickly, what's your definition of product marketing? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to whip out the textbook definition.
Nice.
The Product Marketing Alliance says that product marketing is being the driving force behind getting a product to market and keeping it there. So the way I like to think about it is we're really kind of quarterbacking all of the elements of product launch, getting the launch out the door in a healthy and steady state, and really every customer interaction and touch point until we end up killing the product and its end of life, end of service. So from the time a product is born to the time it dies, product marketing has some involvement and is touching a lot of the moving pieces in the day-to-day operations. But for product marketing, what we like to think about are three things. It's the market, the product, and the audience. So when we're looking at the market, it's, okay, what categories are we going after? What's the current state and future direction of the market? What are the major competitive forces? When we're looking at the product, that involves partnering deep with the product management teams, the people who are actually, scoping and building the products to understand what capabilities, what features are we building to help drive adoption of those. It's then, again, and this is heavy driven input from our sales engineering colleagues, but it's conversations with our customers, our partners, industry analysts, and really taking that voice of the customer and representing it back to the business. And then again, partnering with those pre-sales teams to help them, arm them better with how we're better, how we're differentiated, and meet customers where they are so that we can show the differentiated value. Now, all the different things that I'm talking about here are made better by inputs from our pre-sales colleagues.
Jeannie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question, and I don't know why it's always such it's so funny because product marketing is so different at every organization. At some companies, they'll just be pure content creation. At some companies, it's purely, how do you funnel insights into the product team for them to build better product? And it's so different based on stage and all that. The way I like to define it is really threefold. And the first part is market research and just really understanding who are we selling to, what are their pains, what are the personas, taking all that insight, funneling it back to product sales, marketing, other teams for different kind of use cases. The second arm that I see it as is product launch. How do you go to market with kind of new products or features and enhancements to products? And then the third arm is, I call it sales enablement, but just how do you equip the sales team with the training, with the tools that they need in order to move deals down funnel. And as part of that category, I also include kind of like campaigns and marketing, because in my mind, that's mass sales, right? That's the air cover that's going to funnel into the sales team. But yeah, it's always fun answering that one from my perspective. And I love when people ask, like, what is product marketing? We have no idea what you do, because some people think it's like building pretty slides. And I think that's part of why the relationship between product marketing and other teams like aren't as cohesive as they can be. So I love that question and the curiosity. And like, I would say, don't be afraid to ask your product marketer, like, what do you do? Because I think a lot of times everybody's confused.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't ask me that question. If you asked me that question, Jeannie, I probably would have said they make really nice slides. And
exactly. That's what everyone thinks we're design. We're not.
No. But I mean, it's just the value of learning how y'all think about it. And that translation is so huge for us because at least I tend to be really dialed in on, all right, how do I sell this? What's the value? How do I get this, insert this into deals? But thinking broader, that is, it's really, really helpful for our team, at least.
I wonder too, like, I have young kids like you do, Jeannie, and I'm like, if you're at a kid's birthday party and somebody said, what do you do? And you said you're a product marketer, I would love to like people probably don't have any idea what it is you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get away with a lot.
Kid's birthday party or your parents, right?
Yeah.
No, I do want to echo Jeannie's comment that it is different in every organization. So understanding what's in the scope of remit within your product marketing team. I've seen product marketing teams that report to product management, some that report to marketing, right? Like every org is structured differently, and what's under remit of product marketing will likely be different org to org. But I think overall, we're all concerned about the same things, right? Positioning, messaging, making sure we're showing up in the market in the right ways and in the right places.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely kind of a snowflake situation. Everyone's got a different way of doing things.
Well,
Yeah.
great. And to answer Sophie's question, she had a really great point in the chat to us, which was like, what kind of assets do you share to make your impact as a product marketer? And this gets into the meat of what does a normal relationship look like? What does a great relationship look like? And then, Jeremy, I wanted you to unpack. I mean, you basically built this entire demo hub experience for SentinelOne and leveraged what I would consider in some ways like an SE role to better tell your product story. So if I just take two steps back and get into like, what does good look like? What does your normal relationship look like? What does great look like? And Sophia, hopefully we can answer your question on assets and like I think where you're going is like what is that tactical thing that you do back and forth that makes that relationship special?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to think about it is that my SEs are helping substantiate all the claims that I make in marketing, right? Like there's always rough edges that marketing kind of glosses over, and SEs are, having to deal with some of the rough edges with customers. And, I think that, while marketing's job is to tell the prospect why our solution is the best and the most differentiated, SEs are the ones that are showing the prospect that value in the context of their environment and things like proof of concepts. So, I think a standard area of partnership for pre-sales and for product marketing is definitely around major events. So, the demo talk tracks that are be giving at major events should ideally be tied into the event themes that product marketing is working on. So, if we're launching a new product or feature, collaboration between the two functions really early on in the booth planning is going to make sure that the demos that we're giving on site, the talk tracks that we're going to be giving on site, are matching the messaging of everything else that's going to be surrounding our booth presence is from a marketing and product launch perspective. So making sure that at least at a base level, if you're going to be going to a major tier 1 event, that everyone's on the same page, what we're going to be showing and what we're going to be talking about. That's what I would consider to be what good looks like. Obviously there's definitely more ways to collaborate than that.
Yeah. If I were to get really like down to just like a tactical day-to-day level in terms of like, I guess I see it as product marketing as inputs and outputs to every kind of department. I would say almost like the input from sales or pre-sales that we usually get is technical validation of our positioning, help with demo support for like mass, I guess like mass produced assets, co-presenting, and then like help on an ad hoc basis. And then from a PMM level, what we would kind of deliver is almost like product and launch content and kind of that positioning that Jeremy mentioned. I think that's like at a very, very tactical level. But if you're saying great, Chris, I know you mentioned like, how do you make that great and like at a really good level? I think one piece of that is kind of what I think Tom, you mentioned this earlier, but just like understanding the why. Like, why are we pulling you into all these things? Like, why are we asking for these one-off things? Like, understand the bigger picture of like, why are we pulling you away from deals to work on these evergreen assets? And I think even being able to understand what product marketing does, what we're working on in our roadmap is like that helps up-level the relationship in general, because then we can both partner and be kind of SMEs at different levels where you guys are the technical experts that interface with the customers. We're the experts at the positioning and kind of like more of that higher level, or that higher level kind of area. And I think when we have a really, really great relationship, you guys get a partner to kind of strategize with, and then we get somebody that we can help amplify their message to the broad organization. And that kind of affects the entire message going down the funnel, not just at kind of the mid funnel where pre-sales is usually brought in, but all the way from the beginning, from website all the way through to deal close.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
One of the areas where I really love like product marketing messaging is the sales enablement piece. I think it has been mentioned. And that I think if it is really consistent with the overall vision of the product and the story that you're telling your customers, I think it is a very huge win. And this asset is in great organizations and companies. It's used over and over again, the sales enablement side of things that product marketing really creates.
Yeah, this has me thinking of documents or assets. Sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to run over you, man.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think, and I think that I've said some of this before, but the things that, coming back to that question, what assets have I found most useful? For us, it is those decks, but it's most useful when we collaborate on them together and there's SC ownership of that. I think there's this temptation, and I found internally sometimes it's hard. Like SC is, hey, this is taking me away from working deals, taking me away from commissions. Well, this will help you be more effective in it. Those decks, and then also I might be the only person, but I love a good positioning document of, hey, here's how you position it. Here are case studies. I love case studies. Love case studies. And just because I just find it goes so far in establishing ROI later in the sales process. And I know those are also the first things that we gloss over. It's like, here's 17 case studies. Okay, I see 5 percentage points, percentage markers, and $3 signs. I'll come back to this later. But if you really, I've seen the most effective SCs when they are, when they're talking about this, when they're showing a feature and somebody pushes them on it, the ones who can pull out those case studies and say, yeah, actually, we worked with this client, or, there's a study that was done that demonstrated this. This is why we do this. We're not just doing this because it looks cool. There's a reason why it helps our customers. And I find that lands so well. You can see it in their reactions. You can see it in those win rates for those particular deals as well.
I'm just glad somebody's reading the positioning document. So thank you, Tom.
I might be the only one.
You made me feel a little warm and fuzzy inside too when you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, this has me thinking of where my mind typically goes with our relationship is assets, keeping things up to date, positioning documents, kind of competitive intelligence a little bit on those. This is how we differentiate ourselves. But there is this concept, and I know this is a bit of a hot take, but there's this concept of like generic content never gets used. Like, yeah, you can tell me about this generic study or whatnot, but I'm not going to use it because everything I do is unique. So Jeanne, what do you think about that? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that one made me feel the opposite of warm and fuzzy.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I'm completely kidding. And I think when you brought up earlier, what does a good relationship look like and what does a great relationship look like? This is kind of one of them. I think I've been at a lot of companies where I've come into the company and I've seen that product marketing takes the insight, you push it out in generic content, sales poo-poos on it, sales engineers go, no way my prospect would go for this. And that's when the relationship isn't great, right? And I think generic content, it's great at a top funnel level where when you're trying to bring leads in, sure, that's great. In an enterprise deal cycle, that's not going to work. You're not going to go up to a CFO, say the same thing to an IT person. That would just be completely, it's not going to work. And we understand that. I think this is where I think this is probably where like the Storylane kind of thing comes in and interactive demos and stuff like that. Because what I did at my previous companies when I have built out too is really looking at, okay, how do we further segment in terms of use cases, in terms of personas, and create these asset kits for each of those segments so that as you're in the deal cycle, you have positioning towards IT or finance. So you have, an interactive demo for each of those so that you have a data sheet for each of those and your champion stakeholder can take them and pass them through to other folks. I know we've used kind of Storylane and interactive demos in the past to kind of like just with our champion buyer, really just tease up and have them sell to, or even just pass them along as like teaser demos to get on that next call so that sales engineering can jump on and actually get there. But I think generic content is I would almost say like a very level 1 product marketing. And I think at a more advanced company, you would almost further segment and have that split out. And that's where it's really important for us to partner with sales engineering, for you to be able to tell us who comes into the deal cycles, are the pain points for each of these personas really, resonating, and have that be a back and forth relationship and dialogue.
The selfish part of me, honestly, what I hear is that you are getting rid of my busy work. Because like building all those for all those use cases. So my last organization, we had 40 products. Okay. And we had tons of verticals. And like I guess what I'm hearing from a SE perspective is like from generic to bespoke or very specific type of assets. Like you're essentially saying you're giving the gift to the SE, saying like, you're giving me data, but I'm going to give you something very custom and something that works, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think we'll ever have the capacity to be, you know, one-on-one per deal, right? But I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we spend a ruthless amount of time on is prioritizing and figuring out which, you know, broader buckets can we build for that are more, will be more mass use in terms of these assets. Yeah, and I think you mentioned like the busy work piece. That's something that's always top of mind for product marketing because we partner cross-functionally with so many people that the top of mind thing for us is always how do we offload that busy work and how do we kind of help our stakeholders so that we can get our bigger initiatives accomplished. You know, if we're trying to roll out for CFOs like an entire asset kit, how do we offload some of that stuff? And that's where we've used like the interactive demos and trained up our product marketing team in order to get into the product and lightly use the product to offload some of that work for SEs. I know, you know, I've gone from kind of bothering SEs at previous companies to doing that ourselves, to kind of creating these positioning documents and having you guys review those instead of the end assets and all 10 end assets, because we use those positioning documents to create and spider out to different assets. But there's always kind of like that thought process that's going on in our head. And if you guys think of any, you know, other ones, let us know. I think that feedback is probably the best thing that an SE can do for product marketing.
So when I think about it, and I'm not going to poo-poo them, I think there's two really great use cases for the generic materials, and one is for prospecting. I think when if you're doing cold calls, you need some of these generic materials. You might need that generic, this is what we've seen in the industry, this is what we've seen, how people use it, or here is a general demo. And every good SC, though, however, will bristle at the idea of a generic demo because they think generic demo equals not going to win. And generic demo, and so we have when generic enters the conversation, we get a little bit, this is going to be something where somebody's trying to use shortcuts. But I think there are great uses. I think it's prospecting. I think it's later conversations. I think it's great for ROI conversations. And then this comes to what I see as a paradox of being in sales, and especially as an SC, because we have to demonstrate to every prospect, hey, you are unique, and we are going to be able to solve your unique problems. And on the flip side, the reason why I know we're going to be able to solve your unique problems is we've got this tool that is very broadly applicable and configurable and solves the unique needs of others. And that takes a little bit of mental gymnastics to hold these two concepts in your head at the same time. It's unique, it's custom, but it's broadly applied to all of these other customers. And both of these things are good. And so I think having those generic materials of, okay, this is how this is broadly used, but we have these dials that we can turn, these things that we can tweak that account for your special sauce. And so,
Nice.
so there's a time and place for them. But again, that's why you might see us bristle when we hear generic demo.
Yeah.
And
Tom,
from my
when
side,
you,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, so Tom, when you go talk about this generic material and
Yeah.
also specific content, I think that's where my head again comes back to these interactive demos that
Yeah.
Jeanne was talking about, right? And both at the top of the funnel when you're prospecting and later stage deals, you can use these. And I think Jeremy will probably speak to some of the other content where he up-levels all of that and also presents it as demo hubs, a collection of demos essentially for various verticals and use cases. I think it's a great use case as well.
I say that, but we use Storylane, and so when there is and SCs love it and reps love it. Reps love it because like, okay, I can give you a teaser. Here's something of, I know we need to get a discovery. I know we need to hone in on the things that matter most to you, give you a tailored demo. That's where the SC is. But if you want to get a taste of what this will look like that broad application of what we're going to do, here you go. And the idea of this, and this is again, how you leverage these generic materials, is to get another conversation. Now let's talk about what makes you special. And then let's show you how we're going to be able to dial in what makes you special and how our product can meet those needs. And so it's that dance again. It's like that paradox.
Yep, that's always back and forth. I have a question to the audience. Is anybody here, if you can just raise your hand or put it in the chat, virtually raise your hand, you know what I mean, a product marketer. So I know some people invited product marketers to the event. So I'd love to hear from you. Also, I saw Sophie in the comments, and I think this is the same Sophie that's going to Paris. Am I right? So let me know. I'm super interested. Yeah, it is. Okay. So cool. I loved watching your demo, Sophie. It was great. I was part of the judge panel. All right. And so selfishly, I'm kind of a thief. Okay. I like to steal what good looks like. This is a comment I use a lot. What does good look like? I think part of my job at PreSales Collective is to show, or at least shed light on what good looks like in our space, so we can all learn from it. We can take one thing back to our team, add something to our sort of mental toolbox. So as part of this conversation, I wanted Jeremy to talk about how he actually rolled this out. Like tactically, how did you get this done? So I love high level conversation. I've learned a lot already. Jeanne, you had me at remove busy work. That's enough for me. But I would love to hear from you, Jeremy, because at SentinelOne, you did something really special with this thing. So lay it on us.
Yeah, so this was, I guess, Demo Hub before Demo Hub. But in cybersecurity, we have a handful of tier one industry events where you show up, you make a lot of noise, you launch your new products, you get all the coverage. And for us, that's RSA conference and Black Hat. So those take place within about 3-4 months of each other. That's what makes a very fun summer as a product marketer. But about a year ago, when we were in proof of concept with Storylane, we had the goal of launching self-guided tours that we could have at Black Hat. In our first iteration, that was a single iPad in the back of our booth that could serve as auxiliary capacity for non-technical folks like members of the product marketing team or sales folks to be able to guide prospects through what products we had at the time that our SEs were also downloading. So at the time we had a goal of launching with around 5 tours, which, thanks to Storylane, we managed to be able to spin up in 2 weeks. But we needed a way for prospects to navigate multiple tours, right? So the goal is you land on a page, you have the ability to kind of self-select which tour you want to take. So we saw this as a single hub for interacting with all of our product tours. In the last year, we've increased our adoption of Storylane. We have reps that are pitching Storylane tours out of our sales enablement tool, which is awesome. I never thought day one I'd have as much of an adoption on that as we have now. We even have it embedded in some parts of our product. So over the last year, we've seen a tremendous amount of tours being spun up across the business. And what started with 5 tours, which was very manageable to fit on an iPad screen, we very quickly rose to 12 tours. Right. And I feel pity on the product marketer, Chris, at your last company with 40 products.
Yeah.
But, even 12 products, right? It starts to, each one of them with multiple use cases and in each one, and what started with, one iPad tucked in the back of our booth has now become a central fixture in our tier one event presence. And we have IMAX, we have signage, we're making it part of our booth activation, and it goes to all of our tier one events. Regional events. It's being used in our global demand generation campaign. And now every new product that we're launching, especially at these kind of tier one events, we're coupling it with a Storylane tour on day one. So when a prospect comes up to the booth, they can kind of kick the tires themselves and click around and play with the product tour. And we say, hey, you want a live demo of that? We have really smart pre-sales folks over here that can walk you through a live demo. So it's for us, creating this demo hub has broadened the audience of these tours. We've got it as one of the main CTAs on our website, which definitely took some convincing, but I'm happy we're there now. And we're seeing lots of success, right? Since we shifted over from, just sending out links to individual tours to giving a place where you can kind of self-select and choose your own journey. We've given north of 750 hours of tours in the last 90 days, and that's freeing up almost 2 FTEs to go focus on higher value accounts, higher value interactions, where we've essentially automated that first demo call. It's letting them do higher value activities. So that was kind of how we ended up with the demo hub, and I was happy to see that Storylane is building this natively within the product as well, for those who don't want to go through the pain of building it themselves.
What we did, Jeremy, with 40 products in comparison is we have groups of SEs. So I would have to take everybody out of pocket, no demo calls. They would go to the event, and every single time somebody walks up to you, you have to give them a demo from the very beginning. There was no like intro, So half the time I found my team giving demos that were just completely unqualified because people wanted swag or people wanted to come up and get the hat, that kind of thing. Wow. That's really impressive. My first question to you, Jeremy, though, is like what you just laid out requires an organization to be on board, and it requires a lot of people to say yes to that. I'm super curious on how you overcame the resistance. I'm sure you faced a lot of questions and a lot of internal politics on getting this rolled out. So like, what were some of those original pain points you had to get over?
Yeah, the original pain point, it was obviously around the technical implementation of having to build the demo hub site ourselves. That's just the fun of web marketing. But other than that, it was very quick to convince people the value of this. We were able to displace a number of other demo tools that SEs were using. I think once they saw, hey, I can invest, a couple of hours of my time and get a golden demo and not have to go do the same demo 10 times in a day, especially for that first customer call. That was when it clicked, and that was when we saw a lot of adoption within our SE teams, but then also product managers. And as I mentioned, we're starting to embed it within our product, where a customer lands on a part of the product that they're not licensed to. We actually have a walkthrough and says, hey, this is what you would experience if you had this product, right? So we're seeing, I think there wasn't really much of a roadblock, right? Once we kind of went through the technical implementation and got the website stood up, it was smooth sailing from there. And everyone, I think what we have now is, okay, we've outgrown the current layout, right? We're at 12 tours. How many tours is too many tours? But that's a good problem to have, in my opinion.
And Tom, I see you shaking your head like, and Jeanne, have you rolled this out the same way? Do you have the same sort of experience in your organization?
Jeanne, you can go first.
We have not used Demo Hub yet. We have every intention of it. I guess I'll share I think you mentioned the challenges earlier. I started on it Zora not too long ago, but there has been an initiative to roll out a Demo Hub that has never been completed because there's not enough SE resources to record all these videos, because the engineering and the web development and all that. So it's something that we intend to do for sure.
Oh, so you guys were building your own?
Yeah, and I think most companies, I think product marketing, it'll be like custom development of these websites, which is going to take, depending on resourcing, it could take a couple months to even, a year, I would say.
This is exactly what we would do. We would
Painful
build
to
our
say
own.
that, but
we
yes,
record
it
our
could,
own.
yeah.
Yeah. And you'd have to find the SE who was willing to do it and had time and like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm familiar with that problem.
Yep. And then if a feature goes outdated, then you're kind of back in and having to re-record and everything.
Yeah, and to Tom's earlier point, SCs aren't doing this out of the kindness of their heart, right? Like if it's revenue generating activity, absolutely. Like to take people away from customer calls to record things, it's always kind of the challenge.
Yeah, it's funny the way I positioned this. We have a makeshift demo hub. We're still pretty early on, and to that point, Jeremy, one of the things I could say is, all right, you know how if you don't really want to go to this conference because you're just going to be doing generic demos all day. If we do something that is targeted for that conference that we can then pass over to the sales rep that's going to be there, that's a great ROI on the tool, and that, you know, and we can save some money, and everybody loves that. And B, what that does is you not traveling to that conference means I can assign you more opportunities that are going to that are going to realize more commission for you. And so there's ways to do it. There's ways to make sure, like, this is how we leverage this tool. Yes, it's time now, but it's going to be helpful later. And that demo hub, it's interesting. It's more or less taking on a life of its own. It started with, all right, here are some of the generic demos, but we're also using it for, speaking of product marketing, when there is a new feature or function that it's not even ready to go into the demo orgs, and it's still, it's sometimes it's pre-beta testing, and we're still figuring out a lot of the messaging around it, but we want to get ahead and start selling this or getting this out to customers who've been asking for this, or potential beta customers. We'll build a story lane, and we'll work with product, and we'll work with product marketing to do. I can think of there's one, or actually two features that we're doing this with now, where it's not in the demo orgs yet, but we're already showing it, already getting feedback from customers and prospects, and the SEs love it. They love it because this is more stickiness. This is more, and it's expanding commissions because it's a new feature that we charge for, and they're starting to see that value. But you're right. There has to be, when I have the conversation with the team of SEs that do this, how is this going to help your life? How is this going to help how is this going to come to more commissions and more time doing the things you like? It's an investment now that pays off in other ways later.
Yeah. I mean, this is all epic stuff. I think we're talking about a serious pain point that we all have as leaders, as solution engineering teams, as ICs, stuff that we used to create in-house. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like my demo environment was literally a server behind me, and I had to keep it up to speed, and I had to ensure it was updated, and like that was all on us, you know. And
Yeah.
it just seems like these, you know, like the space, there's a lot of tools out there now, and part of what I try to do is just unpack, like, what does good really look like? How do you really use some of this stuff? And I mean, I could see a repository of custom demos. I can give it to my sales team, but they're not in my demo environment screwing things up. No offense, salespeople, but they're not in there like messing up my information and all that stuff. So there's a great question from Matt, and then we'll get into some trends, because Jeannie and Jeremy, you said part of your role as a product marketer is to be on the lookout, be ahead of the trend. I think that's a big part of being a solution consultant, but a lot of the times we're in our lane, you know. So I'm interested in that. Matt's question says, how do you structure the product marketing team and SE teams to be able to build good process around keeping it up to date? Solid question, Matt. I love that. Getting back to the how is it done in your orgs? You guys are all, the three of you are doing it. So how does that work, and how do you successfully keep things up to date?
I think everyone kind of has to take ownership of them. I think it's more on product marketing to identify when things are out of date. I'm kind of the demo czar within S1. I don't know that that's an elected or appointed position. But having one person who's the focal point for Storylane within product marketing, and likewise within sales engineering. I mean, understanding one person is going to have bandwidth capacity, you know, and bandwidth limits, but the way we've broken it out is every product marketer owns the demo for their own product. That ensures it's always updated with the latest messaging. If they're making changes in messaging, that's reflected in the tours. But it's always helpful to have someone with a stick to come beat the hornet's nest when things need to be updated in advance of events. So having a demo czar is not a bad idea.
It's popular. I love that.
I think by nature, being a czar is not appointed or elected. I think you just take that or are born into it. For us, so we're still pretty early on, and we're still working on our iterative process of, okay, let's get these super tight and clean these up. And then the other thing that we're finding is really helpful is the chaptering. So if something is changing or we're adding something, adding a chapter is a lot easier than, all right, let's wipe the whole thing and start from the beginning. Sometimes we haven't, and again, we're so early on, we haven't gotten to a point where, yes, the product has gotten a major facelift, or the product is fundamentally changed in its user experience. We haven't crossed that bridge yet, but right now we're getting incremental changes. That's where we are in our evolution of using the tool.
Yeah, I'll just share. I mean, we're not at the spot where we're doing Demo Hub yet. But what I have with my team is we have our positioning documents, and each product marketing person kind of owns that. And then I have a reminder on their calendar every 3 months where they go in and they update the positioning with the latest features, so that it's always kind of coming from this one source of truth. And then as part of that, they make sure that every single asset that comes in from it, including like demos or whatever it is, are up to date. So it's kind of on a rolling basis.
The good
So I have
thing is,
two.
like, these links don't change, right? As you
Yeah.
keep updating these demos and just working on those interactive demo assets with new updates about the product, the links to those demos still stay the same. So
That's a good point, Akash, because like sometimes you send something out and they keep it and they look at it 6 months later. All right, 2 more questions. We'll get everybody out of here a few minutes early so you can prep for your next demo. I've thoroughly loved this conversation so far, so thank you so much. If you guys are learning anything in the chat, please just do a shout out, thank you, do something, let us know if you're enjoying it. I'm curious about trends and a parting piece of advice. So from Jeanne and Jeremy, quick tips on trends, because like buyers, the whole world of buyers and engagement and technical buyers has changed tremendously this year. So Jeanne, you first. What are some of the trends you're witnessing?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple. I know we're short on time, so I won't go too in depth. I think one of the key trends is definitely, I would say prior to the last 2 years, there was a huge focus on kind of net new deals and kind of bringing those in, like overall. And I think one of the things that I've seen a shift to is how do we, get more out of our existing install base? And I think there's been a huge focus on cross-sell, upsell, and kind of running go-to-market motions based on that. A little bit less on the, let's go for the quantity play, but like, how do we break in and get more out of what we have? The other thing that we're seeing with our customers is definitely, I think in the past, especially in the enterprise SaaS world, it's, you sell per product, and then it got to a point where it's like you're buying monthly, you're buying a subscription for the year. And I think now we're seeing a lot of customers move to kind of that usage-based model of just like you're buying based on what you consume, which comes with another host of challenges. And just kind of when you reach out, and there's a lot of things to think about in terms of that. And then I think the third thing that I've seen is a lot of there's been a lot of talk around kind of like PLG motion or product-led growth. And I think there was like a huge uptick on it last year. I think this year you're seeing it even out a little bit, where it's product and sales led. But obviously, I think, in enterprise software, people do 60 to 70% of their research before they even hit, in SDR and ISR, or whatever you call it at your BDR.
Yep.
But how do you infuse more of like the product previews, of more just like the pain points, into that 60% of research and get them at that spot, and kind of so they can transition well as they're going down the funnel with our face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop right there and just point out the fact, I just want to highlight how great of an answer that was, Jeanne. If you ask anybody on your team, what is the trend you're seeing in your space? Harness that. That was an epic answer on where things are going, where the market is trending, what we're seeing, how we're interacting with it, how we're getting ahead of it. So I just think I want to bottle that up and just use that sort of experience in the community to say, like, you have to know where things are going. You may join a webinar one day, somebody might ask you, and I absolutely love that. So thank you. Over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah. I think more broadly, people are changing with how they interact in B2B purchasing cycles. I think people want to engage with more technical content before engaging with sales. Again, I love that 60, 70%, right? All that research that's being done ahead of time. I think the days of a prospect going to the website, downloading a white paper, filling a contact form, getting qualified through the funnel are gone, right? And when I look at some of the closed won deals that we have, there's dozens, if not hundreds of touches within an organization before they convert to a, a customer. So providing that, kind of kick the tires type of content, whether that's in the form of product tours or otherwise, prospects are engaging digitally over longer periods of time in the sales cycle. So the more content we can provide to them upfront, the more informed they're going to be by the time they do engage with us, and will hopefully be a bit more qualified at that point.
Love it. So this is the lightning round. I'm going to ask each of you for a parting word of guidance, and then we'll wrap it up. So Tom, you're next. Parting word of advice for the crew.
If it wasn't abundantly evident through the course of the course of the panel, I think it's really important for SCs to invest that time to work with product marketing, be a collaborator, work together. You'll see more influence. You'll be able to own some of that messaging, and you'll understand it better. And it'll be crisper when you deliver it, and crisper when sales delivers it.
Jeannie?
I'm having a hard time with just one. Let's say, pull us into your deals and let us listen in and understand what there is in the market. And then I'm gonna throw a bonus just because I can. Tell us what's working and what's not, and like be direct with your feedback. We're used to hearing from people across the org, and that's what we need from our end. And that's how we become best buddies, is by you guys giving us the harsh reality of it all.
Oh, we love that.
Jeremy, parting words of advice?
Yeah, product marketing can go deep on product too. We can nerd out, we can learn the technical stuff. So, my advice to PMMs, being the internal and external champion of your product, build that credibility, learn the product inside and out. And my advice for pre-sales teams, be patient with us, show us the ropes, right? You walk customers through this every day, treat us like a customer or a prospect, right? A PMM that can be dangerous with the product is an asset to you. So invest your knowledge in us, and that will return to you in spades.
If you're really good, we're gonna steal you for our teams.
That's right. Okay. I mean, I'm so jazzed. Thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like I want to have 4 more of them, but we've got to land the plane somewhere. So please, if you've listened, reach out to Jeannie, Jeremy, Tom, Akash on LinkedIn, connect. Let's keep the discussion going. Please take advantage of moments where you can connect with others outside of your organization, where you can learn what good looks like. Thank you so much for tuning in, and just stay up to speed on PreSales Collective events. We've got so much going on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Till next time, take care.
Thanks,
Thanks
y'all.
so.